The vast expanse of space stretched endlessly beyond the windows of the Galactic Council's space station. Inside the Grand Crystalline Chamber, hundreds of alien species gathered for what they believed would be just another routine admission ceremony. Little did they know, this day would mark the beginning of a carefully orchestrated deception that would change the course of galactic history. Ambassador Han Jiho walked into the chamber with measured steps, his Earth delegation following close behind. His traditional black suit, chosen specifically to appear simple and unassuming, drew curious stares from the assembled representatives. Some aliens whispered among themselves, commenting on the quaint appearance of these newcomers from a backwater world. The chamber itself was a marvel of alien engineering, its walls made of living crystal that pulsed with soft, multicolored light. Above them, twin artificial suns cast a warm glow across the gathering, their light reflecting off the crystalline surfaces in dazzling patterns. 300 different species filled the tiered seating, their forms ranging from ethereal energy beings to massive silicon-based life forms. Captain Kim Sora maintained her position 2 steps behind Ambassador Jiho, her modified military uniform passing perfectly as a ceremonial outfit. Her sharp eyes continuously scanned the chamber, noting defensive positions, exit points, and potential threats, all while appearing to simply admire the architecture. The aliens saw only what they expected to see, a slightly nervous human female, obviously overwhelmed by her first experience in such grand surroundings. Distinguished members of the Galactic Council, Jiho began, his voice carrying just the right amount of awe and humility. Earth comes before you not as conquerors or warriors, but as humble seekers of knowledge and friendship. He paused, allowing his words to be translated through the neural networks that enabled communication between species. The Malrarians, crystalline beings who floated several feet above their designated platforms, chimed in harmony. Their species' way of showing approval. Their transparent bodies refracted the light from above, creating small rainbows that danced across the chamber walls. They had already reviewed Earth's application and found the humans' modest technological achievements charming. We bring with us our culture, our art, our music, Jiho continued, gesturing to the small delegation behind him. And yes, our agricultural knowledge. He smiled softly as several council members nodded patronizingly. Earth's primary exports listed in their application had been carefully chosen. Entertainment media, basic food products, and simple manufactured goods. Councillor Drek, an imposing insectoid being standing nearly 3 meters tall, clicked his mandibles in what passed for amusement among his species. His iridescent carapace shifted colors as he moved to address the chamber. "I have reviewed the human's application thoroughly," he announced, his translator converting the clicks and chirps into standard galactic common. "They appear to be a peaceful species, still working to master basic faster-than-light travel. Their military capabilities are—" He paused, mandibles twitching, charmingly primitive. Behind her perfect poker face, Captain Sora suppressed a smile. The quantum computing core hidden within her ceremonial medallion was already mapping the station's entire defense grid. The alien's supposedly unbreakable encryption was being decoded by algorithms that Earth had perfected centuries ago. A group of void dancers, beings of pure energy, swirled in their containment fields as they discussed Earth's application among themselves. Their entertainment broadcasts are quite engaging. One pulsed, its thoughts translated for all to hear. Such imagination for a young species. What none of them knew was that those same entertainment broadcasts contained encrypted data streams that had been mapping the galaxy's military capabilities for decades. Every seemingly innocent human entertainment export was a sophisticated intelligence-gathering tool. Ambassador Jiho bowed deeply to the council. "We understand we have much to learn," he said, his voice carrying just the right note of grateful humility. "Earth hopes to be a worthy addition to this grand assembly of civilizations." The council members murmured their approval. This was exactly what they wanted. Another peaceful, unthreatening species to join their ranks. None of them noticed the small device in Jiho's pocket silently recording the quantum signatures of every species present, data that would be vital for Earth's defense systems. "Welcome, Earth," Counselor Drek announced formally. "May your presence enrich our galactic community." The chamber erupted in various forms of alien applause, from light chimes to gravitational pulses. As the Earth delegation took their assigned seats, Captain Sora allowed herself one small, hidden smile. The first phase of Operation Silent Shield was complete. Humanity had successfully infiltrated the Galactic Council, hiding their true nature behind a carefully constructed mask of peaceful simplicity. Above them, the artificial suns continued their eternal dance, unaware that they were witnessing one of the greatest deceptions in galactic history. Earth had taken its first step onto the cosmic stage, and not a single alien present suspected that this seemingly harmless new species would soon reshape the very foundation of galactic power. 6 months had passed since Earth joined the Galactic Council, and the facade of peace was about to shatter. The first signs of trouble came as brief flickers on the Council's monitoring systems, ships disappearing without warning, colonies going dark. Then came the horror stories. The Ravager fleet burst from fold space like demons from ancient myths, their black ships blotting out the stars above peaceful worlds. Their vessels resembled twisted thorns made of some impossible dark metal that seemed to drink in light itself. World after world fell silent as these cosmic predators struck without mercy or warning. Ambassador Han Jiho sat in the emergency council session, his face a mask of practiced concern as he watched the holographic displays. The massive chamber, usually a place of measured debate, had descended into barely controlled panic. Representatives from dozens of species crowded around the central projection, watching in horror as another colony world went dark. Park Min-ho sat beside him, his fingers dancing across what appeared to be a simple datapad. To the casual observer, he was merely taking notes like any other technological consultant. In reality, his device was performing quantum-level calculations that would make most Council supercomputers look like children's toys. Every battle, every tactic, every weakness of both the Ravagers and the Council forces was being analyzed and categorized. "The Centauri colonies have fallen," announced a glowing energy being, its light dimmed with distress. Their defensive fleet was destroyed in minutes. Counselor Drek's antennae twitched with agitation as he studied the tactical displays. "The Ravagers' technology exceeds our projections. Their ships phase through our strongest shields as if they weren't there." Captain Kim Sora stood at her usual position behind Ambassador Jiho, her sharp eyes missing nothing. Through her neural implants, she was already transmitting encrypted updates to Earth Command. Every piece of data about the Ravagers' capabilities was being analyzed by Earth's hidden military complex. "The crystalline worlds request immediate assistance," chimed the Melrarian representative, its usual harmonious tones distorted by fear. "Our outer colonies are under attack. Our defense forces are ineffective." The chamber erupted in overlapping voices as more reports of destruction poured in. The Council's peacekeeping fleet, which had maintained order for centuries, was being swatted aside like insects by the Ravager Armada. "They're not just destroying military targets," reported a silicon-based being, its rocky form trembling. "They're systematically dismantling civilian infrastructure, mining colonies, agricultural worlds, research stations. Nothing is spared." Ambassador Jiho watched as the holographic display updated, showing the Ravagers' advance across Council space. Their attack pattern was far from random. They were systematically cutting off supply lines, isolating key strategic positions, and destroying any infrastructure that could support a counterattack. "Earth." Counselor Drek turned suddenly, his compound eyes fixing on Jiho. "Surely you understand that all members must contribute to the defense effort. Even your modest ships could help evacuate civilians." The chamber fell silent, all eyes turning to the human delegation. This was a crucial moment, one that Earth had been preparing for since long before first contact. "We will consider how best to assist," Geo replied with diplomatic precision. His voice carried just the right mix of concern and hesitation. But you must understand, our ships are barely capable of interstellar travel. Against such advanced attackers. He let the sentence hang, watching as the council members nodded in understanding. Of course, the humans would be useless in this crisis. Their ships were primitive, their weapons basic. What could they possibly contribute? Behind him, Sora's neural implants continued transmitting. Deep within Earth's hidden military installations, preparations were already underway. The humans had spent centuries preparing for exactly this kind of scenario. Perhaps, Park Min-ho suggested quietly, his simple datapad still collecting priceless tactical data, Earth could provide humanitarian assistance, medical supplies, food. More worlds were going dark on the tactical display. The Ravagers' advance was methodical, unstoppable. Council species that had known peace for millennia found themselves facing extinction, and their mighty civilization seemed helpless to prevent it. What none of them realized was that Earth's representatives were not watching a disaster unfold. They were watching a test. Every response, every failure, every weakness in the Council's defenses was being cataloged and analyzed. When humanity finally revealed its true strength, there would be no room for error. As the emergency session descended into chaos, Ambassador Jiho exchanged a subtle glance with Captain Sora. Soon, the galaxy would learn why humans had spent centuries perfecting the art of war. But for now, they would watch and wait and prepare. The Ravagers thought they were the hunters. They would soon learn what it meant to face a species that had turned warfare into a science, deception into an art form, and patience into a weapon. Earth's mask of peaceful weakness would fall away when the time was right, and the galaxy would never be the same. The council chamber fell into a deathly silence as the massive hologram flickered to life. The Ravager Supreme Commander's form towered over them, its biomechanical armor gleaming with an oily sheen. Even as a projection, its presence made the air feel heavy and cold. Councillor Drek's antennae lay flat against his carapace, a sign of absolute terror among his species. The other council members showed similar signs of fear, each in their own alien way. The Malrarians had dimmed to barely visible specks of light, while the energy beings had condensed into tight, frightened spheres. Your pitiful civilization ends today. The Ravager commander's voice boomed through the chamber. Its face was a nightmare of metal and flesh merged together, with glowing red sensors where eyes should be. We have crushed your fleets, broken your defenses. Now you will surrender your worlds, or we will exterminate every living being in council space. Ambassador Han Jiho sat perfectly still, his face betraying nothing. Beside him, Park Min-ho continued working on his datapad, seemingly oblivious to the terror around them. Captain Sora's hand hadn't moved from her ceremonial sword, a gesture that the aliens interpreted as nervous habit, but was actually keeping her in constant contact with Earth's hidden command network. To demonstrate our resolve, the commander continued, its metallic teeth gleaming. Earth, as the newest council member, will submit to occupation first. Your primitive world will serve as an example to others. The council chamber erupted in whispers. Several representatives turned to look at the Earth delegation with pity. They all knew humans barely had space travel. Their world would fall in hours. Ambassador Jiho stood slowly, taking his time to straighten his jacket. The simple action, performed with such calm deliberation, caused confusion among both the council members and even the Ravager commander. Where was the fear, the panic? We request 12 hours to prepare our response, Jiho said, his voice steady and clear. He didn't ask. He didn't beg. He simply stated it as fact. The Ravager commander's mechanical eyes wavered as they focused on this strange human. You dare to make demands. Not demands, Jiho replied with a small smile. Merely a courtesy notice. 12 hours. Deep beneath the council embassy, in a command center whose existence was hidden by technology centuries beyond the council's understanding, Captain Sora placed her palm on a quantum-locked control panel. Across the solar system, things began to wake up. Beneath the surface of Mars, massive factory complexes powered up, their fusion cores igniting after centuries of dormancy. Within Jupiter's atmosphere, fleet after fleet of stealth ships emerged from dimensional pockets where they had waited for this very moment. On Earth's moon, weapon systems that could shatter planets began their activation sequences. "You have 1 hour," the Ravager commander snarled. "Then we will reduce your world to ash." Ambassador Jiho's smile never wavered. 12 hours, he repeated. "After all, we'd hate for there to be any misunderstandings when we deliver our response." The way he said misunderstandings made several council members look at him sharply. There was something in his tone, something that didn't match the image of the simple, peaceful humans they thought they knew. As the Ravager's hologram flickered out, the chamber erupted in chaos. Species that had known nothing but peace for generations now faced extinction. Several representatives approached Jiho, trying to convince him to flee Earth while there was still time. "My dear friends," Joe addressed them, still smiling that strange, confident smile, "I suggest you all return to your embassies and wait. The next 12 hours will be educational." In her hidden command center, Captain Sora watched as humanity's true military might awakened. Quantum computers that made the Council's best technology look primitive processed battle plans centuries in the making. Weapons that bent reality itself powered up across the solar system. The Ravagers thought they had found an easy first target. They were about to learn why humans had spent their entire history preparing for war, why they had hidden their true strength behind a mask of peaceful weakness. They were about to learn what happened when you threatened a species that had turned warfare into an art form. 12 hours. That's all they needed to reveal to the galaxy that they weren't prey. They were the apex predators who had chosen to hide in plain sight. And as the minutes ticked by, as Earth's hidden arsenals awakened one by one, Ambassador Jiho sat back in his chair and prepared to watch the galaxy learn why humans had always smiled when others called them weak. The Ravager fleet emerged from fold space at the edge of the Sol system, their black ships blocking out the distant stars. Their sensors showed exactly what they expected: a primitive solar system with minimal defenses. The Supreme Commander allowed himself a moment of satisfaction. This would be easy prey. Then reality itself seemed to tear apart. Massive battle stations, each the size of a small moon, phased into existence around every major planet. Their hulls gleamed with an impossible metal that seemed to drink in light itself. Weapon systems that made the Ravagers' best technology look primitive powered up with a soft blue glow. From Jupiter's swirling atmosphere, swarms of combat drones emerged by the millions. They moved with perfect coordination, forming intricate battle formations that seemed to defy the laws of physics. Each drone carried enough firepower to level a city. But it was what emerged from behind the sun that made even the Ravager's Supreme Commander step back from his view screen. The Earth Defense Fleet revealed itself, led by the flagship, Humanity's Pride. The vessels were works of art, sleek, dangerous, and radiating power that their sensors couldn't even begin to measure. "This is Admiral Lee Dye of the Earth Combined Forces." The transmission cut through every frequency, reaching not just the Ravager fleet, but every corner of known space. In the Galactic Council chamber, representatives watched in stunned silence as their view screens filled with images of Earth's true military might. "You were warned," Admiral Lee continued, his voice carrying the weight of centuries of preparation. "Earth is not prey. We never were." The Ravager commander found his voice. "Impossible. Your world is primitive. Your technology was a mask." Admiral Lee cut him off. "One we wore by choice, while you saw what you expected to see. A young, peaceful race. We were watching, learning, preparing." The Earth fleet moved with impossible precision. Ships that shouldn't have existed performed maneuvers that shouldn't have been possible. Quantum computers that made the Council's best technology look like children's toys coordinated the entire solar system's defense grid. In the Council chamber, Ambassador Jiho stood calmly as chaos erupted around him. Species that had looked down on humanity for months now stared at their screens in shock and awe. The Malrarians had brightened to nearly blinding intensity in their surprise. Counselor Drek's mandibles clicked rapidly in disbelief. How? The counselor managed to ask. All this time. Humanity learned long ago, Jiho explained, watching as Earth's forces took up battle positions. That true power lies not in showing your strength, but in choosing when to reveal it. The Ravager fleet launched their first attack, a wave of destructive energy that would have annihilated any normal defense. It splashed harmlessly against shields that operated on principles the Council hadn't even theorized yet. Earth's response was devastating. Weapons platforms that had hidden beneath Mars' surface for centuries emerged, firing beams of concentrated reality itself. Ravager ships simply ceased to exist where the beams touched them. The combat drones swarmed through the enemy fleet like angry wasps, their quantum-linked AI cores allowing them to coordinate faster than any organic mind could process. Each drone moved with perfect precision, as if the entire swarm was a single organism. Impossible. The Ravager commander's voice cracked with fear for the first time. Your species, you were peaceful. Admiral Lee's laugh echoed across all frequencies. We are peaceful, by choice, but we never forgot how to fight. Earth has spent its entire history preparing for war, perfecting it, turning it into an art form. We simply chose to wait for the right moment to show our true face. The battle unfolded like a deadly dance. Earth's ships moved with calculated grace, each maneuver planned centuries in advance. The Ravager fleet, for all their fearsome reputation, found themselves outmatched in every way. In the council chamber, the representatives watched in silent awe as humanity revealed technology that shouldn't have been possible for thousands of years. Weapons that bent space itself, shields that existed in multiple dimensions, ships that could think and move as one. All this time, Counselor Drek whispered, we thought we were welcoming a child race to the galaxy. Instead, Ambassador Jiho finished for him. You were dealing with a species that had mastered the art of war so completely that we could afford to hide our strength, until it was needed. The battle continued to unfold across the solar system, but its outcome was never in doubt. Humanity had revealed its true face, and the galaxy would never be the same. The bridge of the EDF Justikar gleamed with holographic displays and pulsing quantum interfaces. Admiral Lee Dai stood at the command center, his presence radiating calm authority as he watched humanity's forces execute their first major offensive against the Ravager Empire. Battle Group Omega, execute Pattern 7, he commanded, his voice steady and sure. The words triggered a cascade of activity across the massive ship's bridge. Officers moved with practiced precision, their movements rehearsed countless times for this very moment. Commander Yoon Era's fingers danced across her tactical console, coordinating the Ghost Fleet's quantum strikes. The Special Fleet, invisible to even the most advanced Ravager sensors, moved like shadows through space. Their quantum drives allowed them to appear and disappear at will, striking from impossible angles and vanishing before the enemy could respond. First wave of ghost ships in position, Yoon reported, her eyes fixed on the tactical display. Quantum strike points calculated. Ready on your command, Admiral. The Ravager fleet hung in space before them, their black ships still imposing but no longer invincible. For the first time in their long history of conquest, they faced an enemy that had spent centuries preparing specifically for this kind of war. Execute, Admiral Lee ordered. The Ghost Fleet appeared simultaneously at 12 different points around the Ravager formation. Their weapons, technology that Earth had kept hidden for centuries, fired in perfect synchronization. Space itself seemed to twist and fold where the quantum beams struck. Ravager ships simply ceased to exist, their matter converted to energy in microseconds. Second wave, moving to position, Yoon called out. Enemy fleet attempting to regroup. The Ravager ships tried to form a defensive sphere, a tactic that had served them well against countless other species. But Earth's forces had studied their every move, their every strategy, for decades before revealing themselves. Predictable, Admiral Lee murmured. Battle Group Beta, execute Pattern 12. On the tactical display, hundreds of Earth ships moved in perfect coordination. Their formations seemed to defy normal spacetime, ships appearing to move through each other as their quantum drives bent reality itself. The Ravagers found their defensive formations split apart like paper in a storm. Meanwhile, on the Ravager command world, Captain Kim Sora led the ground assault. Her powered armor, a masterpiece of human engineering, made their supposedly impenetrable defenses look like paper walls. The suit moved as if it were part of her body, its quantum-enhanced systems allowing her to react faster than thought. Breach point secured, she reported through the quantum comm. Around her, elite human troops in similar armor poured through the gap she created, moving to Phase 2. The Council representatives, watching through their emergency broadcasts, could barely comprehend what they were seeing. Human soldiers moved with impossible speed and coordination. Their weapons bypassed shields that had stood for centuries. Their tactics showed an understanding of warfare that went beyond anything the galaxy had seen. Back on the Justicar, Admiral Lee watched as the battle unfolded exactly as Earth's simulations had predicted. Centuries of preparing for every possible scenario were paying off. The Ravagers fought bravely, but they were facing an enemy that had turned warfare into a science. Enemy fleet at 60% strength and falling, Yoon reported. Her hands never stopped moving across her console, directing the Ghost Fleet's strikes with surgical precision. Their formation is breaking. The Ravager ships began to retreat, something they hadn't done in thousands of years. But Earth's forces had anticipated this too. Quantum mines, planted decades ago by stealth ships, activated along their escape routes. Space itself became a weapon against them. Captain Sora's team has reached the command center, a communications officer announced. Ravager leadership is being secured. Admiral Lee allowed himself a small smile. Everything was proceeding according to plan. Humanity had hidden its strength for so long, waiting for the right moment to reveal its true power. Now, the galaxy was learning why. In the council chamber, the alien representatives watched in stunned silence as humanity's military doctrine unfolded before them. What they had dismissed as a peaceful, primitive species was systematically dismantling the most feared military force in known space. Let this be a lesson. Ambassador Jiho's voice carried through the chamber. Peace is not the absence of strength. It is the wisdom to know when to use it. The battle continued, but its outcome was already certain. Earth had spent centuries preparing for this moment, and now the galaxy would understand why humans had always smiled when others called them weak. The Galactic Council chamber was packed to capacity as Admiral Lee Da stood before the assembled species. The victory over the Ravagers had sparked an emergency session, not to discuss the defeat of a common enemy, but to understand the species that had achieved it. "We owe you the truth," Admiral Lee began, his voice carrying across the silent chamber. "Earth unified centuries ago, not through peace as we led you to believe, but through understanding the true cost of war. We hid our strength not out of deception, but from wisdom. History taught us that visible power attracts challenge." The holographic displays around him came to life, showing images that made even the most composed council members gasp. Massive underground cities stretched for hundreds of miles beneath Earth's surface, hidden from all detection. Shipyards larger than moons orbited Jupiter, cloaked by technology that shouldn't have existed. Quantum research facilities buried deep beneath Mars' red surface housed computers that could process more data than all council systems combined. Our history is written in conflict. Admiral Lee continued, as images of Earth's past wars played around him. Each battle taught us lessons. Each war showed us new possibilities. Instead of forgetting these lessons in peacetime, we preserved them, refined them, perfected them. Commander Yoon Era stepped forward, her tactical officer's uniform drawing curious looks from the assembled aliens. We studied every conflict in our history, she explained. From ancient tribal wars to modern space battles, we prepared not just for war, but for every kind of war imaginable. The displays showed massive training facilities hidden beneath Earth's oceans, where soldiers practiced combat in every conceivable environment. Simulation centers that could recreate any battlefield scenario. Research labs where scientists had spent centuries perfecting weapons that the Council had thought impossible. But why hide it all? Counselor Drek asked, his mandibles clicking in agitation. Why pretend to be weak? Admiral Lee smiled. Because true power lies not in showing strength, but in choosing when to reveal it. We watched how the Council treated powerful species, with fear, with suspicion. We watched how they treated peaceful ones, with patronizing kindness. The holograms shifted to show Earth's first observations of alien civilizations, decades before official first contact. Stealth ships that had mapped the galaxy while remaining completely undetected. Quantum probes that had studied alien technology without leaving a trace. Every entertainment broadcast we sent you contained hidden data gatherers, Yoon explained. Every trade mission carried sensors beyond your detection capabilities. We learned everything about you while showing you only what we wanted you to see. The council chamber erupted in murmurs as species realized the full extent of human preparation. Their supposedly secure communications, their classified technology, their military secrets, all had been known to Earth for years. But do not think we deceived you out of malice. Admiral Lee said firmly. We hid our strength so we could better protect peace. The Ravagers proved why this was necessary. New holograms showed the construction of Earth's defense fleet, a process that had taken centuries. Ships grown in quantum forges, weapons tested in pocket dimensions, armor forged from materials that shouldn't have been possible. Your people achieved in secret what our entire civilization couldn't do openly, a crystalline being chimed. How? Unity of purpose, Admiral Lee answered. Every human knew their role. While we showed you our artists, our farmers, our peaceful traders, beneath the surface we all worked toward one goal, to be ready when the galaxy needed us. The final hologram showed Earth's complete military might, fleets that could darken the skies of 1,000 worlds, weapons that could reshape reality itself, defensive systems that made their planet virtually invulnerable. We are not conquerors, Admiral Lee concluded. We are guardians. We hid our strength not to deceive, but to preserve peace. And now that you know the truth, we offer this strength in service of galactic peace. The council chamber fell silent as the representatives contemplated this revelation. The species they had dismissed as primitive now stood revealed as perhaps the most advanced civilization in known space. And yet they had chosen to hide this power until it was truly needed. 3 months after the great revelation of Earth's power, the Ravager Empire's surrender was formalized in the Grand Council chamber. The same room that had once dismissed humans as primitive newcomers now watched in respectful silence as Admiral Lee Dai accepted the surrender personally. The Ravager's supreme commander, stripped of his biomechanical armor, knelt before the Earth delegation. His once proud species had learned a harsh lesson about underestimating those who appeared weak. Behind him, the remains of his command staff stood with heads bowed. Ambassador Han Jiho stepped forward, holding a quantum tablet that contained Earth's terms. The council representatives leaned forward, expecting harsh demands for reparations or territory. Instead, what they heard surprised them even more than Earth's military might had. Earth does not seek dominion, Joe announced, his voice carrying through the chamber. We seek security. The galaxy must understand that peace requires strength, and strength demands responsibility. He began reading the terms, each one focused on rebuilding and stability rather than punishment. The Ravagers would keep their core worlds but disarm their military. Earth would help them convert their warships into peaceful vessels. Their technology would be used to help rebuild the worlds they had destroyed. It was mercy from a position of absolute power, something the galaxy had rarely seen. Captain Kim Sora stood at her usual post, watching the proceedings with quiet satisfaction. Her powered armor, now worn openly instead of hidden beneath ceremonial robes, gleamed in the chamber's light. She reflected on humanity's long journey, centuries of hiding their true nature, of watching and waiting, of building their strength in secret. "The terms are more generous than we deserve," the Ravager commander admitted, his voice carrying genuine surprise. "Generosity from strength is not weakness," Admiral Lee replied. "It is wisdom, something your people will learn, as we once did." The council representatives discussed the terms among themselves, their various forms of communication creating a symphony of clicks, chimes, and pulses. They had spent months coming to terms with Earth's true nature, with the fact that humans had hidden such power beneath a mask of peaceful simplicity. Commander Yum Era worked at her console, coordinating the massive effort already underway. Earth's hidden fleets were emerging across the galaxy, not to conquer but to protect. Their advanced technology, no longer concealed, was being used to help rebuild shattered worlds. "We understand now," Counselor Drek said, his mandibles moving in a gesture of respect. "Why you chose to hide your strength, why you waited. The patience it must have taken." "Patience is the companion of wisdom," Ambassador Geo replied. "Earth learned long ago that true power lies not in its use, but in knowing when to reveal it." As the formal proceedings concluded, Admiral Lee gathered with his officers in a quiet corner of the chamber. They had shed their peaceful masks, but their commitment to peace remained unchanged. Now it was supported not by deception, but by openly acknowledged strength. "We revealed our strength not to dominate, but to protect," Admiral Lee told them softly. "That was always humanity's purpose. And now, the real work begins." Captain Sora nodded, looking out at the assembled species. The galaxy was changing. The old order of fear and dominance was giving way to something new. Peace maintained not by weakness or force, but by strength tempered with wisdom. As the council chamber slowly emptied, Earth's representatives remained, planning the next steps in their centuries-long mission. They had emerged from behind their mask of peaceful weakness, but they would never forget the lessons that had led them to wear it in the first place. The galaxy was entering a new era, and humanity, no longer hiding its true nature, would help guide it toward the lasting peace they had spent centuries preparing to protect.